Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
How you doing, Dad?
I'm well, Steve, thank you.
Good,
Yes.
good.
How are you? Your end?
Yeah, I mean it's been a hard week. We found out unfortunately that our best friend up here is passing away, which is really tough news to take over a surgery that should have been quite routine, but there's always risks involved, and we're really going to miss him. So the whole week's been spent grieving, really, and meeting up with our friendship group and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's not been the best week, but we're doing okay. We're doing all right. So yeah, how are you doing this week, Dad?
Okay, Stephen. Yes, I've been busy, as you know, and we're going to see in a minute or two. And I'm very pleased with the way it's coming along. When I first looked at the picture we talked about last week, I thought, do you know that's a lovely picture. Am I going to do it justice? Well, I think you'll agree. Now I haven't finished it yet, so I've still got the tricky bits to do. The hair particularly is going to be a bit tricky, but otherwise I don't think I've got. I like to get over the features. Really, they're the most important thing of a portrait. You've got to, and I spend quite a lot of time, doing that. So. Making sure that you got it right. It's one of the things I like to do. I like to make the picture look like the person. And I know a lot of people don't, well, you don't need to do that, just slap it on and whatever. No, not for me, it doesn't work that way. And I think most people will think of it in the same way. And people have said to me in the past, well, you might as well get a photograph. It's not the same. A photograph is not the same. You don't get the same vibes from a photographic reference than you do from a piece of artwork. That's my view anyway.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a look at this. You've done a few. You've obviously started the picture, and you've got a few stages that you can show us. So we're going to just pop up stage one on screen so that everyone can see. This is the first screenshot that you took for us to show where you're at now. Let's talk to us about what you've done here in this first stage,
Well,
what you started
well,
with.
I've very kindly put the reference picture there as well, so that you can compare as we go along. And the important thing really, I started at the forehead. That area in the forehead, and because I wanted to get the colour right. And it's very deep. As you go down the face, it gets very strong and very dark. You can look at the comparison I have between the forehead and where the hair meets the cheek, particularly. And you've got those two areas that you've got to be mindful of. Well, the colour combinations there were white to start with. Now, first of all, there's another colour which you can see, and that is the sand colour paper. I'll just talk a little bit about that. I usually find that the sand colour is a very good general colour, and you see I've used it for lots of things, all portraits. But the other picture that I did last week, no, the week before, wasn't it? Or was it last week? When I showed the Puma, that was on white. Off-white, I think it's light grey, pastel matte, completely different, but the outcome is completely different. Now, if you would use the same coloured paper, that's the light grey pastel matte for this picture, you'd have had quite a job to get that tone that I've got there. And so if you look at the forehead again, that you can almost see the sand coloured paper influence in it. Are you with me? So you don't have to work quite so hard then by putting. And when you put the white, you've got to put white on first. Not everywhere, just in the areas where you've got the light skin, and then you put the pink on. So it's the white and the pink, and then a few other colours. And you've got to be mindful of the fact that you've got shading there. Now, I've started the ball rolling here, and you see the subsequent pictures I'm going to show you, where we've moved to almost finish the face off completely. You can see how it starts off life. And you've got to, you see, I haven't got the eyes in and I haven't got the lips in, but the nose was critical here. Do you remember we talked about, I think, that last week, we were talking about the nose and the relationship between the colours and especially the area where you have the line running down from the eyebrow to the tip of the nose, that line, you've got to be careful. Now that, as you go on, and we show the next couple of pictures, you see that starts to diminish, but you've got to start off very defined. Are you with me? It's got to be there so that then you can use it. But if you recall last week, we had the sketch, and I said that line that was there had to be removed. If you hadn't done that, that would have shown through here, more particularly when you move on. So, and the lips, well, the lips look a bit odd there, but again, by putting those in, and the eyes, again, you just put the framework of the eye and the framework for the lips, and those have to really go in quite soon because it gives you the focus really on the rest of it. And there's an area between, just underneath the eyes that is interesting. You see that's got like a mauvey tint to it. Well, if you look at the reference picture, you can see that, but it's not quite so strong as I've got it. But once again, just as with the nose, you've got to put it strong to start with, because you rely on the lighter tones, the whites and the pinks, to bring that back. Are you with me? So it's a good lesson, this, to see
it's a good snapshot to take, because you could easily have, just shown us a picture with all of those tones tempered down, but you've shown it before, almost at its stage where it's quite obviously not there, to show that people will get to that point, and if they get to that point, not to panic, because you have to get to this point to then temper it down.
That's right. And the other thing, the eyebrows, again, they look very, very, look like a couple of caterpillars crawling across her face. Again, I had a choice really of either putting them in with a lighter tones to start with and then darken them later. But I thought, no, if you look at the reference picture again, they're very, very prominent. And it's part of the attraction, really, I think, of the young lady. One of the things I've found I like very much these days is a natural look. She hasn't plucked her eyebrows. She hasn't tried to make them look thin like they used to in the old films. I hate all of that. I like a natural look, and you can see that she's very natural. I mean, she's got makeup on, obviously. You can see from the lips. And you have to have that because that's something that is part of the portrait that you're looking at. But I think it's something that it does look a little odd at this stage, and but as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you know where you're going, then you do get, in the end, you get to where we're going to be.
Excellent. Well, let's look at the next stage, because I'm sure everyone's keen to see where you took it from there. So this is stage 2, where you've added a lot more in. You've really started to do more of the skin and the neck.
And the neck, yes. Well, if you look at the reference picture again, it's hard to define where the chin is, the level of the chin, because it's all in shadow. And again, what you have to do there, you can't make that up. You can't say, well, I'm going to put the chin in, because you might get it wrong. So what you do is you try as close as you can to the picture and follow that. But you can see now we've got much more depth now going in. And you see the nose starting, that ridge that I was telling about from the eyebrow to the tip of the nose, that's now weakening. But we've still got that contrast. You've got to either have, you can't have nothing there. You can't just make it light, because she won't have a nose. So you've got to put something in there. So you've got to find out where it is on the picture, and You can, as I have done, slightly exaggerated it to make it look a little bit more attractive. But I think the whole object of this particular stage was to show you the way I've created almost exactly the tone that we have on the reference picture. You know, especially over the chin, the cheek area. And that colour that you see, that sort of reddy tone there, is put on afterwards. It's not put on to begin with, it's put on afterwards. So you've got all the pinks and the ochres that I put in. And then I put the blush on. I call it a blush. And that was done afterwards. Just added very, very lightly into the picture. But it did make a difference, as you can see on that one. So I was very pleased with the way it was coming along then.
Excellent stuff.
I don't think there's anything more to add to that, because you can see it's begging now for the lips and begging now for the eyes, isn't it? You've got to be careful, you see. It's so easy when you get a situation like this to, I must do the eye, I must do the lips. But the thing is, you've got to hold back. You've got to hold that back until you're ready for it. And you know when you're ready, with experience, you know. A lot of artists do the eyes first, don't they? I've seen it done on YouTube, and I've never done that. Maybe I could do it that way around, but I've always felt that you need something for the eyes to sit into. And very often I put the colours in that you see, you saw on the picture, and then the eye goes in. But once the eye goes in, I then redo the surround of the eye to give us the effect you're going to see in a minute or two.
Okay, well let's have a look at this final stage where it really comes to life. And look at that.
Now that is pretty spectacular, isn't it? There's one slight difference now between what I'm doing and now to what I'm doing. This is where you can make slight differences. You know, she's got a very slight pout. My picture to the picture, reference picture, and I thought that would be really nice. And when I did it, I thought, that's lovely. I like that idea. It shows a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more of the personality, I think. But I have changed that now. I've gone back to more or less what you see on the reference picture.
Just goes to show how you can change these things ever so slightly.
You can. Yes,
you
you
know.
can. Well, you can't
Quite brave.
rub anything out. That's the one thing you can't do. Well, I've never done anything like that. I've never rubbed anything out on a portrait. You find if you do that, you're going to scuff the paper to start with, and the pencil's application is not going to work as well once you put it back in again. But once again, you see that line of the nose again. I think it's more attractive the way I've got it than the way the photograph shows. It gives her just that little bit more personality. But if you didn't want that, if you found that, I really don't like that, it's quite easy. You just use the colour shaper and just pull that back a little more. But I don't think I will. I'm very pleased with the way that's come up.
Interesting how the eyebrows now look more subdued as well. And things like that. Certain features, it all sort of blends more rather than each one standing out separately.
Right. And the thing is, you may not be able to pick it up on the screen, but the eyebrows aren't quite as dark as the colour on the reference picture. Again, I can do that if I choose to, but I wait and hold back on that, because once the hair's in, which is the next thing I'm going to be doing after I've got that shoulder in, that's going to be something I'm working on at the moment to get that right. You think, oh, you're only going to put this colour in and that colour in. Not quite like that. It's a bit like the area below the eye and the nose. You've got that beautiful combination of tones. You've got that not quite quite so much on the shoulder, but it's still there. So you've still got to work on that to make sure that you make it as natural as you can. And once I've done that, then I'll be going for the hair. But until I do the hair, I don't completely finish the face off, particularly where the hair meets the side of the cheek, where that combination there isn't
I was
quite
going to
as it
ask
is.
about that. I was going to ask about that area, about the hair meeting the cheek and
You've
how
got to
you
be,
do that.
you've got to make it so that you've got something to work within. You see, one of the things you can't necessarily see that well on the reference picture is a hair drapes over that. Now, if it drapes over it, you've got to have something underneath it. Otherwise, it's going to look odd. So that's why I do what I do there. I go as far as I can where I feel the the skin may show through, and then then, because it's going to be dark, the hair's going to be dark anyway, and the area going onto those, cheek, is going to be dark, so it's not going to be affected. If it was a blonde, for instance, you were blonde hair, you would have a completely different setup. I'd have to put it in, and I wouldn't be able to put the blonde hair over the top of that cheek. It just wouldn't work. So you have to have a different process. But I've done other pictures with blonde hair and light hair, so people can pick that up. But this one, I think, was important to do that. It's not quite as dark underneath the chin as it is on the reference picture. Again, I'm going to wait until I get the hair in. But that's all going to come next week.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think this is I hope that people have found this really interesting and enjoyable, because I actually think that showing these stages and seeing it build has been really interesting discussion, and it shows how your process from a more theoretical point of view of what you start with and apply, and the reasons why you do all of those. So, yeah, we're going to have a few more stages next week.
Yes, I will, if you like. Yes, we could have maybe another couple or three, and then with the final picture as well. So that would be nice to do that. Going in, you can see perhaps how the hair, I started the hair, and then we'll get the dress started, and then the background, and that'll be it. Hopefully, it'll be. But at this stage, when you're doing a picture, if you're happy with the face, everything else really does fall into place. You've just got to be careful with the relationship between the hair and the features. You think, oh, well, it's black, just put black on. You don't do that at all. You've got to find colours within the face, which would be probably the very dark ochre tones that I've got. That would have to be put into the hair at some stage, probably a stage into intermediate stage. If you don't do that, you're not going to have the two things compatible. It's not going to work out. So although the hair looks black, it wouldn't be black that you put on. You could put black as an afterthought, to darken as a darkening agent, which is what black's all about. But it's got to have quite a few more colours, I would say. Now, you remember last week we were talking about I wouldn't be using a lot of the tones. Well, from that range, as far as I remember, there's at least 12 pencils I haven't used from that range so far, and it'll probably be more than that. So it goes along with what I was saying last week. You don't use them all, but you've got them there just in case. And the lips were the most trickiest bit, because I couldn't put too many colours on there, believe it or not. I had to develop with I don't know, I think about 8 or 9 colours I had available, and I think I probably used 5 from my recollection. So it's interesting. I think it's fascinating. I think people will see it. When they see the video, it's even more impressive, as you can imagine.
Very interesting. Well, if anyone has any questions about what we've discussed today or what we've shown on screen, then let us know, because we can always talk about them next week as we talk about the next stages. But if anyone has any questions on that or anything else, then always get in touch with us. Thank you so much, Dad, for sharing your process as always with us, and I hope
It's always a
people have
pleasure.
found that interesting. And we will leave it there for this week. So thank you everyone for watching and for listening. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Enjoy your
Enjoy your
week.
week.